Hello and welcome to the Hero Spouse. I am Kenda Ruth, and I am here to answer your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. I am streaming on a new service, so let me know if there are any problems with the microphone because I've never used this before. And I know when I tested it, I saw the little microphone thing in the corner, but I did not see it today, but I did test a little while ago. Okay.
Hello.
Okay, I see myself there on one screen. Okay. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm trying to mute all my other screens, but it sounds like I am coming through. Okay, so that's good. That is coming through on YouTube. Good. And I'm not sure. I'm going to make sure I can see a chat here on the side. Sounds good. Okay, thank you. Because it's new. It looks similar to my old one, but it is different for me. So I think it might work the same. So I am still going live on YouTube. I'm going live on the Facebook page. I tried the Facebook group, but I'm not sure that it worked because there was this other piece of it in the instructions that I couldn't, that the instructions were missing one piece in the steps. That little link wasn't there. So I'm going to go look just in case. But I'm kind of doubtful that it's there. Since that I couldn't, oh, look. Hey, I see myself there. Oh, I'm live in the Facebook group also. Whoa, that's so cool. Okay. I think that comments from the Facebook group might show up here to me, but I'm not really sure. If they don't, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the screen here to the Facebook group and then make sure that I have muted this completely. And there, I can see, and I'll see if I can see. Hopefully I'll be able to see comments come through that. Okay, so today we have, oh my goodness, I have 7 questions, and I received one more later. I probably will be able to get to at least 6 of these. I know the one I received at 10 today will go into the queue for later. So I will start answering questions later, my usual 3 next week on Monday again. And please keep submitting because after Christmas or during the holiday season, submissions went way down. I think I had 1 during December, whereas usually I'm pretty full up. So keep submitting so that I can have 3 per week. So let's get started, see how we can do. I'm so excited about this new system. So today we have, may I use your name? Oh, she says yes. Okay. We have Carlotta. And Carlotta is has a bomb drop of December 30th, 2024, and a date of marriage of 1998. She has a boomerang who is a high energy replayer. She says, I just want to know how to move forward and detach. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. I just want to heal. I'm bitter, mad, angry, and hurt. Not to mention, I have a disability from the COVID vaccine, which was my husband's idea. So first, we've talked a little bit about the COVID vaccine one together already. So I'm going to set that piece aside. Okay. Because that's a little bit of a separate thing. And I also want to be really sensitive on that one. And so I've discussed that with her. Okay. But the detachment, the bitterness, the angry, the hurt. So the resource that I really recommend, well, first, there is Stand Up and Thrive, which is my membership. It closes tonight. That includes my course, Detach and Thrive. So we work on detachment in Stand Up and Thrive. And detachment is your key to healing. It is what I consider the most important key in your toolbox. And I think I saw a post, was it yesterday? In fact, I actually have printed it so I can read all the comments on it. I think it came through, I saw it yesterday, and it was 21 hours old, so it came through 2 days ago, where somebody was commenting on about detachment and maybe the scariness of it. And they were commenting about how they saw people who were detached were ones who were no longer standing, which is a little bit similar, not exactly how, but similar to how I felt. When I first, right after my bomb drop, I saw the people who were detached and I saw people who were bitter. Not so much no longer standing. They may not have been sinning, but they were just bitter. And so I was associating detachment with bitterness. I'm like, I don't want that. And so there's a confusion with, does detachment equal, sometimes we see not caring, but this one was, is detachment what happens or what causes you to stop standing? And no, it is not what does that. In fact, if you're not detached, you're not healed. Really, you are not healed if you are not detached, because attachment means that your emotions are connected to somebody else's. In other words, if someone else gets angry, you don't have the control over yourself to not become reactive. So it doesn't mean you'll get angry. You could get defensive. You could get offensive. You could get sad. You could get something to their anger, then calm, rather than neutral, rather than, you know what? Maybe we need to stop and think about this, rather than trying to diffuse. And attachment means that you could be codependent then. You want to be able to separate your emotions that way. So one of the best resources that I found is James Messina, Messina. Now, there is this share screen option. I didn't realize, I think it was actually in the StreamYard thing also. And I am going to test a little bit. I don't know if this test is going to work, but I'm going to test this, okay? And see if I can do this. I might mess it up. And every time the phone rings, I just click it off. So just a moment, I make sure it's not the school. And if it's not right now, I don't answer it anyway. And it keeps ringing, but I just click the off button. So I'm going to open a page and then I'm going to come back so that I can see my screen, and I'm going to see what this, and see if I can figure this out. So hold on, because if I can show you this detachment, otherwise I will just tell you a little bit about James Messina's, or I could probably also just, here we go. Now I'm going to try this and let's see. Okay. It is on my screen in front of me, and I'm going to watch and see, because I think there's about a 9-second gap. So it looks like it is coming through. And what James Messina's, there, it's small. I see. Okay. So you might see it small up there. I don't know how well it's coming through, and it's only coming through on one of my screens. And one of my, there it is. So there's the gap on YouTube is different than the gap on Facebook. So James Messina's article, it is not prose, it's just a bulleted list. But this is what we used when I was going through this. My bomb drop was 2005. And I was at the Divorce Busting Forum. It is brilliant. What is detachment? And it just gives you a bulleted list. So I'm not going to read these because it's really long. I'm going to scroll through and show you how long that is. Then it goes, what are the negative effects of the inability to develop detachment? And in Stand Up and Thrive, this is a resource. Sometimes during our Zoom sessions, we will just put this up and we will go through some of these bulleted lists and discuss them. So it goes, look at all of those bullets. How is detachment a control issue? And then it is a control issue because bulleted list after bulleted list after list. Okay. What irrational thinking leads to your inability to emotionally detach? Some irrational thinking that leads you to your inability to emotionally detach from persons, places, or things who are toxic or unhealthy for you are. And then again, many, just listing all of the different ways. I think that might be the longest one. How do you develop detachment? In order to become detached from a person, place, or thing, you need two. And then look at the first one on that. Establish emotional boundaries. ... Okay. And then it has some steps. Notice that step 1 includes a nested list of steps. Okay. So this is a resource I recommend. You can find it at many places. I believe this was the coping.us website was, I believe, James Messina's own website. For a long time, it was at the Livestrong website, so it was at multiple places. I just tried to use this one because this is where I found that it was his own stuff rather than somebody else putting it out. So that way I was also able to find a lot more of his other resources. Brilliant stuff. I haven't been able to find where he'd written actual books other than just some manuals years ago, like the 80s, which had been, but they were all very interesting, very good, and all in this style. Okay, so now let me see how I stop share, since I've never done this before. Stop share. Okay. And there we go. So that is what I recommend for learn about detachment, because that's how to move forward and detach. And first thing, detachment is going to come in fits and starts. It's going to come slowly, and then you'll think you're detached, and then you'll learn for a while you're not. If you have an MLCer who does not live at home, and there's a large period where you don't have contact or your contact is limited, and then contact increases again, or they come home, you will learn that, oh, I wasn't as detached as I thought I was. And I often call that in vitro versus in vivo detachment, because you are detached in theory, or you're detached in a lab or a petri dish. But your MLCer comes back and things change when you actually have to deal with them in person. So that's also why it can be very good to have a no contact period, even when it's brief. And by brief, I don't mean an hour. I mean 3 weeks. Because that is healing time where, okay, I'm working on, I feel detached, and maybe not fully detached or very detached in 3 weeks, but you even make just the tiniest bit of progress that you wouldn't have made because they were in your face, poking at you and monstering at you. With your MLCer present, it is a lot harder. And it's a lot harder when you have an at-home MLCer as well. So detachment, those other things are going to come with that. That would be the idea and the hope, the bitterness, the angry, and the hurt. And additional therapy is going to help you with that as well. And to me, in my view, I said that detachment is the most important tool in your toolbox. Well, in your detachment toolbox, the most important tool, in my view, is mindfulness. And that's one of the things I've tried very hard to embed into Detach and Thrive. So mindfulness, instead of making one module on mindfulness or one little lesson, or I've put a lesson on mindfulness and tried to weave mindfulness throughout each module, so that I'm really incorporating mindfulness and emphasizing the importance of it throughout the entire idea of detachment. Okay. And I don't want you to beat yourself up. Carlotta, you don't beat yourself up, and nobody else. It's going to take time. Okay. And you're going to have your bad days, and you're going to have your good days. Okay. We are going to go on to number 2. Number 2 is Anthony. Anthony has a bomb drop of December 20th, 2024, and a date of marriage of 2014. His wife is an off and on high energy replayer. And we talked about Anthony's situation last week. He says, "Hi, you answered my recent question about my MLCer, and you were confused and had questions." Yeah. My wife had an emotional affair in 2018. She apologized and immediately cut it off. So that one of the questions was, he said she had an affair, but I didn't know how long that lasted. So she apologized, immediately cut it off. Okay, that's good. This is very good, Anthony. We saw a marriage counselor. She took taking antidepressants and worked on anger issues. So I'm assuming she took the antidepressants, worked on anger issues. Things were better, but she didn't like any of that. Yeah. It was a lot of work. It is. She was still often angry and having big outbursts. Okay. But you did the work, but it didn't all fully take in that she didn't like having to do it. Was she on antidepressants that worked? Did she not have good rapport? Was she still mad at you? Did she know where her anger came from? And those are rhetorical, but that sort of thing. What did she find out about herself? Had she been angry before this also? Had she had issues with anger? Had she had her temperament been angry? And the reason I ask that is I have 5 kids and for those who don't know, my kids are all adopted. I adopted them from foster care, but they were all infants. Serenity was the oldest. She was 16 months. The others we got almost straight from the hospital. Blaze went to one person and we met him when he was 7 weeks old. The others, like 7 pounds, 5 pounds. Eli was 4 pounds. So, and a few days old. But they are from 3 different families. We have 2 siblings and 2 siblings, and then one who doesn't have siblings. And we actually got 3 almost at once. There were 3 infants at once, pretty much. It's a lot. But I have noticed that you can see the temperaments in the siblings, and you can see the similarities in siblings. And we've got 2 that are siblings, and they are angry. Their temperament is they respond and react with more rage, whereas the others don't do that. And it's just we're working through it, and we're working in counseling in that. And one of them has ADHD and rage and sensory, but it's his sister does that too, without the ADHD. And so I'm asking, was this something that she had problems with before, and they have problems with it, but that it was there since childhood, or that it just started. And that's for how, or did it come through with situational and trauma and other things? Okay. So in 2023, she announced that she was done, but stayed home. She went off her meds, and she was seeing an old alcoholic boyfriend for 5 months. So he had then mentioned that in 2023, she had another emotional affair. So we had 2018, quickly ended it. And then you did the therapy. 2023, and then there was another one that we talked about last week. That was December of 2024, so just recent. So 3 affairs, but way in the past, 5 to 6 years ago. And then 2023, recent, and then just now. Okay. So, and that was an old alcoholic boyfriend. She came back to me, but no reconciliation work then. And that is because that's when the start of the present arc is happening. Okay. So she hasn't been ready for reconciliation work. In December 2024, again, she's done, and she's seeing a new person. I asked her to move out, and she left. He seems to be decent. I'm not sure if the initial emotional affair was the beginning of her midlife crisis, or was it 2023? And that's a little bit the point for my questions was, when was the change in who she was, the personality of the person you know? You have been with her, married to her, since 2014. But only 4 years later, she had an emotional affair. And maybe, how long were you together before 2014? Was it one of those where you'd been living with her for many years before that, and so you were married? It was as though you'd been married for 20 years, or no? Or you rushed into marriage, or you'd been together for 3 years? That really, if I'm taking it from date of marriage, 2014, October. And then, so really, late 2014. You were together for 3 to 4 years, and she had an affair. So maybe there's some things about the history and the personality of the person that you married that you don't know as well. Looking at it that way. if we didn't look at it that way, we would look at this as, oh, you've been married for 10 years before, 9 years before the affair. So a longer time. But looking at it, the first affair now, it hadn't been a long marriage yet. And so that makes me wonder other things. That makes me wonder, depending on your ages, did you marry somebody who had been in a midlife crisis? I'm not really thinking that, because I would put the first one as, you know what, sorry to say it, but people make mistakes in marriage and it's not a midlife crisis. So let's say that first one is not a midlife crisis, which is what I'm probably leaning toward. But the next one I will put as a bomb drop, that 2023. I'm going to put that as the start. And you're in that arc now. But I could be wrong, is what I'm really going at. And I'm really more curious about her background, her trauma, your history, because it's short, okay, from the time to the first affair. I'm glad you did that work, even though some of it seem to have fully soaked in with her. I'm really glad you did the work. Okay. That's what we need to do. I want you to feel good about having done what you need to do. Not sure if the emotional was the beginning of her MLC, or was it 2023? So for right now, let's say that 2023 was your bomb drop, okay? Recently, she's shown some remorse for how she treated me, but she's still dating the new guy. So you're confused? I'm confused if this could be the end of the MLC. No. And she'll just go with the new guy. Now, sometimes people just go with the new guy. Anyway, we don't know. But 2023, and I don't know when in 2023 she announced she was done. So there's the span of that whole year. But let's say, so she could be anywhere from just over a year in to 2 years in. And if MLC lasts 3 to upwards of 7, we're going to say no, not done. She really is at the beginning, okay? Sorry for that part. And, maybe the guy's decent. Maybe the guy's not decent. I'm glad that he's decent enough not to be mistreating her. And, in that, because we have had some where they're actually abusive. That's scary. But there might be a lot you don't know about him as well. And we'll see. But what you do is you be detached, you heal, and you be cordial, and you be grace. That's what's really important. You set boundaries, and you be firm on those. And you don't let her break those boundaries, but you be grace, you be kind, you be gentle, and you figure out how you do boundaries and kind and gentle. But this is not the end of midlife crisis. If that's what this is, no, it's not the end. It's not. I think she might be a very confused person. She has some anger problems, probably. And that's what I would look into, is what's going on with these anger problems. And I'm not saying you have to go look into that. I don't want you doing so much work regarding what it is with her, because I need you to do the work on healing yourself. What I'm saying is that would be what I would think for her. Now, as an MLCer, she's probably not going to do that. MLCers avoid that. But that would be what I would want for her, is to see where that leads. Why the anger? What sort of traumas is she covering up with that? Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to number 3. Oh, we're plugging along at a kind of slow rate, but that's normal. Okay, so the next one, I am going to go with this as anonymous because it came through email. Okay, so we have a anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of October 1st, 2022, and a date of marriage of 2004. She has a boomerang, but did not say energy levels. So she says he moved out right away, and he moved in with a coworker around the end of 2022. He was extremely nasty and cold towards me and sometimes our 3 children, who are all young adults, for the first 6 to 12 months. And then he officially divorced me despite me telling him it wasn't what I wanted. Well, unfortunately, to them, it doesn't matter. It should matter to the world, to us, yes. We matter. but to them, that's not going to. Since he divorced me, I moved out of the family home, leaving it empty for him to sell. I didn't lift a finger to help. Good for you. So I understand why you left it then. That was one of like a boundary for you. It's, hey, you're going to do this work. I'm not going to do the work for you. I get it. That's good. I got my own house for the kids and myself. I got a new really good full-time job in a hospital, and I haven't initiated any contact with him whatsoever since the divorce, as he chose it. The longest being 5 months with no contact. He has been on and off with a family group chat, which he is now communicating in every few hours, asking the kids and me what we're doing. I've been sick this week, and he's been texting, asking if I feel any better. He even has come into my work with our daughters because the girls needed something from me. I was very surprised he came in with them. My question, should I be friends with him? Or should I ignore him since he's living with the alienator? According to our children, he has said some things to them and to her in front of them to make them question this new relationship. He's being extremely nice and respectful to me and going over the top to communicate with me. I just don't know if he's cake eating, which is what I wanted to ask you. Also, when he had his bomb drop, it was close to the anniversary of his dad's tragic death, and he was very close with his dad. He is also the same age now that his dad was when he was tragically killed. At the time of bomb drop, he was crying and shaking like he was having some kind of mental breakdown as he was leaving. Well, he was having a mental breakdown, yeah, and it's good you noted that. And you're right, it probably was related to that. Sometimes we have a trigger just with that, with the age, time of year, but also when we get to the same age, when it was that kind of, especially an earlier, too young death. And if your dad died at 85 and you hit 85, it might be different. So let me see. And it says, I'd never seen him like that before. Okay. This is not cake eating yet. Okay. So, and here's why. Because you're not letting it be cake eating. That's why. Now, if you were to, now that doesn't mean you shouldn't be friends. I'm not going to say a yes or no in a direct way to that. It could become cake eating, depending on how far you took it, how high a level of friendship you took it to. Okay. So, but I think that you should open the door. You just don't swing it real wide. Okay. So what I want right now from you is, like I said before with Anthony, is you're going to be grace. You're going to be kind. I don't want, let's talk about more what I don't want you to be. When he comes over, and let's say he comes into your work, like he did, I don't want you to be aloof. I don't want you to avoid seeing him. If he walks there, don't run into the bathroom when you see him coming down the hall. Oh my, he said, I'm supposed to avoid him because I wanted no contact. Don't do that, especially when he could see that you were doing it, so that you're making a point for him to know. Don't do that. Don't make it a point to, hey, you're breaking a boundary and I'm not allowed to see you and I'm mad at you. Be kind, be gracious, say hello. You can joke with him. Sit there. We're not flirting with him, but we're joking with him. And that's one of the boundaries you take. You're not flirting. Okay? But you are kind. You're a level beyond just civil. Civil is nice and professional. I want you to go beyond that. If you're sick and he brought you chicken soup or something, you don't want to be so over the top thankful, but show gratitude. Thank you. That is so nice. Don't just say no thanks unless everybody else brought you chicken soup and you had too much. But tell him how thankful you are, grateful you are for that and how nice it was of him. And yeah, he's still with the alienator. So you need to tell him that there's some at some point, if he starts doing too much, that there are some boundaries. But right now, what I don't want him to see is like, wow, the door is just closed with her. She's not ever going to look at me. Nothing. Because if he is having some not good with the alienator. Whoa, what was that? My voice came through weird. Okay, well, let's just, I don't know. So if he's having some issues with the alienator, and they always have issues, okay? And it doesn't mean that you're a second choice, okay? I want every one of you to know that. They're in a midlife crisis. But it does mean that they're going to look, hey, I made a mistake. And I'm just going to anchor check, feelers. I'm going to look back and see what will she do if I just say hi? What will she do? Will she look at me? Will my actual spouse give me the time of day? And not the time of day even as a spouse, but just as a human. So think of the prodigal son. And when the prodigal son came home, he offered himself to be one of the servants because he didn't expect to be greeted in and welcomed, even though he was. But he said, if I can just come in and be accepted as something. And he's looking, is there some sort of opening? You don't want to do what the prodigal son's dad did right now. That would be, if you're standing, that is a slow thing because that would invite cake eating. And what I believe in with the cake eating thing is giving a tidbit of cake. And that's what you're doing, because this isn't really cake eating. What cake eating is, when the serious cake eating that you don't want is when they say, well, you know what? I can live in both worlds. And since you're letting me do it and she's letting me do it, I can do it. And nobody's going to stop me. And you also, if you were to get to that point where he knew that you weren't going to go anywhere, you would know that you had the power. And you could say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to go anywhere. But I am going to set a boundary. You have to leave. And I won't go anywhere as long as you dump her. But if you don't, no, door is shut. The door is only open. But I'll tell you, it will open if she's not around. But it's not there. He's not there yet. He's not at an ultimatum where it's either or, which is why you open it wide and you just let him see little tidbits. Okay. I mean, you're not out doing stuff together. You're not meeting for coffee and hanging out. It's just, instead of being friends, you're being friendly. Okay. And I do want to encourage that. If you're standing, you have to start somewhere. Okay, let's go on to number 4. We have an anonymous, let me see. I changed my setup. So anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of July 27th, 2023 and a date of marriage of 2011. She has a clinging boomerang with a high energy replayer. She says, my husband left after bomb drop. It's been a year and a half and he's had the same alienator the entire time. It raged strongly for the first 5 months. Then it's been on and off again ever since. At the 1-year mark, I thought she was gone and that we were reconciling. He came home, but left immediately and went back to her. That's typical, yeah. She fits the young BPD, borderline personality disorder, a fair partner. He feels trapped and has distanced himself, but not broken things off. So he feels trapped and has distanced himself. So does he not live with her then? And so they're not cohabiting is my assumption, since he's been able to distance himself. Okay. He came to me a few weeks ago and said he was going to end it and wanted to come home. I'm doing well without him. Good. I do believe my strength, along with his love for our kids, is what kept him from running away for good. I've seen changes in him since Christmas. He's softer, kinder, makes eye contact, and engages with me more. He told me this was the hardest lesson of my life, but I know now what matters to me. How do I proceed with caution? Can I potentially see this as the first awakening? Well, I wouldn't use the word awakening. I mean, I use the word awakening for other things. Instead, so let's focus on the proceed with caution. Okay. Because he said for hardest lesson of his life, awakening is kind of something else. But proceed with caution is, okay, no, you don't come home. You break up with her and you show me that you are going to stay away from her and that you have been broken up with her and that you were working on us from the distance that you are, cohabiting distance, in other words, meaning no house hopping, because your house isn't a motel. And so he needs to stay in a different place. And I'm not saying you're going to do this. I didn't do it until I could and until he would. I wanted to. And I mean, I tried. Okay, well, you'll stay on the couch. Okay, you'll stay in the van. It was a camper van. I mean, it didn't work. I mean, he had a back. So then okay, I'll sleep on the couch. First thing, the betrayer should be the one sleeping on a couch. And I had a bad back too. So we both ended up not really. We're back in our bed. And it was only going to be for a month. It was trying to set up these absurd things because it was the no bed hopping. It needs to be no house hopping. And it needs to be for a long period, not a month, not 2 months. And there needs to be counseling during this period and work with the counselor. And the counselor can help you determine when. You know what? She sits there or he sits there and helps you say, I think you're doing well enough. How that beforehand they can say, let's set our goal on that you move back together by this time, but we will evaluate it at that time. And the counselor can say, you know what? I don't know it doesn't seem like you're feeling this. He doesn't seem to be, doing the right work. And you seem really hesitant. How are you feeling about that? When you hit that, maybe it's a 6-month mark and you hit that. I finally had to settle on 12 months because we tried the others. It didn't work. I know that sounds like a lot, but if you want it to work, you have to take it really seriously. Because what if you tried 6 months and 6 months wasn't enough because he went back to her? Then you tried 6 months again. You went back to her. And look how much time you did 6 months. And it went the whole 6 months. And I say 6 because Chuck was a 3 months, so we'd be home for the whole 3, then leave. Then he'd be gone for 3. So we have so each cycle of come leave was 6 months long. But then he'd do it again. So there's another one. And that's a whole year wasted for two in outs right there. And do you see how much time you could waste if you messed up and if you were on a 6 months, an in and out would be an actual full year then, because you have to do 6. And if you were gone, if he were a 6-monther, then I'm not saying he would be gone if he left it. I don't know how long, if it would be 6 months. Chuck just himself wanted to come back after 3 and he would leave after 3. So, and that was a pattern that he had. 12 felt a lot like, okay, you know what? That I think could be, and who knows, maybe that won't work for some, but do it with therapy. Okay. And the next thing is go to marriage builders. I often reference marriage helpers, which is Dr. Joe Beam. This one is marriage builders, and marriage builders is, I believe, Dr. Harley. But just look up marriage builders, plan A, plan B. And plan A, I believe, is for when you have reconciliation or working through recovery and you're both in the house. And plan B is when you're separated or one of you is already left, because it's, You don't just come back. The plan B is no, you don't automatically come home because, hey, we want to work, we want to recover now. You do this slowly. And so the plan B is how to do that. Plan A is, well, you're already living at home. You haven't left. So don't leave yet because you haven't. And I might not even be explaining it properly, but look at that. And you bring those to the therapist. Okay. Because I don't want you to say, yes, come on home. I've done it. Okay. I want you to let them know, yes, you can. I want you to, but not yet. Instead of doing the move home, it's we work on us and our relationship, but you should not be extending trust. There are some things that I consider as unconditionals. I believe that love is unconditional. When I talk about love, I'm probably talking about agape, not eros. Love is an unconditional. Grace is an unconditional. I believe forgiveness is unconditional. I don't think you automatically have it. You work to it. And that's because it's a gift you give to you. And it does not mean pardoning either. There's a very big confusion with that. Forgiveness is not a pardon, which is probably why if forgiveness were a pardon, then it would not be an unconditional. Absolutely not. But trust, no way. That is not, and it will not ever be an unconditional. Okay? Your trust is always going to be different. And right now, your trust is through time. You earn trust and you become trustworthy through consistent behavior through time. And he hasn't had enough consistent behavior in this positive manner through time right now. It's not from his past time because he's had this little, his mess ups in between. It's from when the new time starts. Okay. Okay. So we are going to go to number 5. We have an anonymous male left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of March 1st, 2023, a date of marriage of 2002. So his wife is at home, high energy replayer, but as you'll see, I was recently forced out of the home by my at-home MLCer. Okay, so she got the home is what it's coming down to. I was recently forced out by the court. So he was forced out of the home by the court. It's a separation and divorce has been filed, which is how he got forced out. Okay. We talk or text about once every 2 weeks or so. And forced out of the home, what have you been out? Maybe 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I don't even know if it's 3 weeks. I think been moving for maybe 3 weeks. Okay. So we talk or text once every 2 weeks or so. And that's still a new situation when, if you've only been out that long. My question is, what type of contact should I have with my MLCer? And we just had another question that was similar, but that was one where the MLCers, or the last two really, where they're coming back a little bit. Should I go no contact or let her take the lead in contacting me? Should I check in every once in a while and keep the door open to a possible future reconciliation? When we do talk, we're always cordial, and although she has filed, I believe she's now second guessing that decision. Second guessing, but she's not at regret yet. I feel a definite softening from the high energy in the beginning. Yeah, she's really come down from that. Okay, so I'm glad you're bringing this because I think this is a good one for public and everyone to see. I don't think you should go no contact. Not at all. And let her take the lead somewhat, but I think it's okay for you to check in right now. And I think some of the things that have been going on have been good in that she asked you for help and you told her, no, you wanted to do this alone. You wanted me out. And that was a good boundary. And then turns out she did it. And you asked, and then didn't you go over there and say, hey, would you like me or to do something? And she's like, no, I got this. And it wasn't rude or anything, And I think she's feeling good because she's learning I can do it in a proud kind of way. And that's a really great thing for her. Okay. So we have that. But I don't want you to cut her off of contact because that would feel punishment. And she has been nice. And the softening from high energy replay has been quite a while now. She hasn't been leaving the house for days on end anymore, that sort of thing. And I don't want her to feel like you are punishing her with anger. I also want, just as with, I think wasn't the last one, but the one before it was it, with number 3. I want her to see the grace. I want her to see that. I want her to feel welcome, not like, wow, the door is really shut. I want her to feel a pleasant experience in your presence, in other words. I want her to feel that there is an opening and welcomeness when she is with you and that she can feel comfortable, even if she doesn't feel comfortable. If she doesn't feel comfortable, it's because she isn't feeling comfortable. It isn't because you are setting up a context for her to not feel comfortable. In other words, your body language is making it uncomfortable because she might feel uncomfortable for a while. There is an elephant in the room often, but you are not putting it there right now. And so, yeah, I want there to be contact. And for a lot of it, you will initiate. I mean, she will initiate, but it doesn't have to be that way yet. We're not quite at that. She's not quite one of those where she's where she's full clinging, and you can count on her to initiate. We're still learning what it's going to be like. And if she doesn't, you can do check-ins. It's okay. You're just going to make sure that you're not doing anything. It's not that you're not doing anything for her, but that she is learning. And when we say learning, because I want others to know that she's not learning consequences. So you let me go. It's not that. She is feeling really good right now about learning how to do things by herself. Like, oh, I didn't know how to change the oil, or those sort of things. Like, maybe she felt like she just couldn't do it on her own and she needs to prove it to herself. And that feels good sometimes. And it's not personal. And remember to be proud of her for it. And just smile for her. And watch her glow in how she feels proud of herself. And then somebody who's proud of herself can become an attractive force, but she has to love herself. And maybe she wasn't feeling like she was a strong enough person. And as she starts to love that person, then she can be an attractive to herself. Once she is there, then she's ready for a relationship. She has to be ready for a relationship. Okay? Then she might be more willing and open to have a relationship. We'll see. And she's always got you there. You got the kids too. Okay. We are going on to number 6. Oh, looks, we're making some time. Okay. We have an anonymous female left behind and forward moving spouse with a bomb drop of February 1st, 2023, and a date of marriage of 1998. She has a clinging boomerang who is a low energy wallower. After a year of minimal contact with me and the adult kids, I received no wishes for Christmas or New Year's Eve. He spent a couple of hours with each of the kids on Christmas Day, which is much less than usual. It says 6 was ago. I'm not sure if this was 6 months or years, but I think it was weeks, but it says was. So 6 weeks ago, he was, so I'm going to say weeks. He went on a 2-week trip with a childhood friend, the emotional affair, and some acquaintances. He stopped at the house for a coat the day he was leaving. This is when he saw his belongings all stacked in boxes in a basement corner. I loved this. I love this. He was speechless and didn't show any response or reaction. Well, he did show a response or reaction, it sounds like, because you noted that he seemed speechless. I mean, I think the word I might use was he seemed aghast. I mean, or maybe he didn't do this because that might have been a response that you'd say, but I'm looking over in the corner there. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to show her that I'm reacting at all. It's a reaction. That is a reaction. I'm not going to show. I'm reacting, though, because it's a facade of keep it in, keep it in. Oh, my God. He was, and then afterwards was the reaction really came in, huh? Okay, so he was speechless. He didn't show the response or reaction, which is a way of showing it. We hugged and kissed, and he attempted physical intimacy. Oh, okay, that's what PI is. Physical intimacy, which I turned down. That might be another way of showing a response or reaction, unless that is a regular thing, which he had been trying for a while. I didn't hear from him, but, while on the vacation. But the kids got daily texts with pictures through the vacation. For someone who texted his kids once a month and saw them twice last year, this was a change. Why? I'd made no contact for 5 weeks until I asked for tax info. Since I reached out, he has texted back and forth. He's quick to respond, and he lingers mostly about his long days at work. I've sent some truth darts and comments to promote reflection. Do I engage? Let him feel my absence? Bids for connection? Liminality? Is this liminality? I can't tell you anything about the liminality part. Okay, right now, because I want you to keep this up right now, really. Instead of wondering the why, because I think you know the why, in that, well, he saw all his stuff in the corners, like, oh no. Reality is starting to hit. That can be the start of an awakening. Reality is your WTF. But it's really, he's trying to figure it out, how he feels. And he doesn't know how he feels, and he's confused. And he's been a clinging boomerang also. And then he tried to go in for physical intimacy. Really? I mean, he has an emotional affair, so he probably doesn't think of her as that then, does he? Because he's afraid. That was a sign of him losing you. Even though, well, wait, they left me. We know. So he is afraid. Yeah, you're going to see how, since you reached out, he's quick to respond. But see, you said he's quick to respond, which means you initiate, he responds. Now, what happens if that communication thread ends? Will he now initiate another one? That you are now the responder? Or if it ends, could it last another 5 weeks of no contact and you'd need to start up something? Or will he initiate? Test that. See what happens. And then you can do a check-in. Say, hey, just looking for, seeing how you're doing, and see what happens with it. Who knows? And then keep him going. How are those truth darts doing on him too? You can check in. That doesn't mean I'm asking that you ask him about them, but when you contact him, you might be able to get a sense of it. So he's gone 6 weeks usually, and he waited on you to text with business need. So see if he's going to do the same. See if he's going to maintain that kind of a pattern. Okay. That's what you're going to look for, is if he just keeps that up. And we'll figure that out. Because I don't think you need to do a no contact at all. I think I don't want to say scared, but I think he's a little bit nervous. It was surprising to him, like, oh my God, my stuff's there. Why is my stuff there? I really don't belong here. Is this real? That was, when oftentimes when an MLCer leaves, they don't really get that this means this part of it is over for good. That person isn't a part of my life anymore. Other than that, I have kid exchanges. They think, well, you know what? They'll be there if I need them to come back to. I mean, he clearly thinks that because of the physical intimacy. He tried to get physical intimacy right there. So he might keep trying that, and we'll see. It's not, I don't want you to string him along, but just like with the others, I don't want him so closed and you so closed, but he's a little bit more trying to cake eat because he really does come in for the intimacy. So I want him to know, hey, you know what? That's not on the table. You have to be, but there's a truth that comes with that. Yeah, I'd love that. But there's a lot of things that have to happen for that to happen. You have to do all of these things, and that is so far in the future. So he has to know those things. Okay, let's go on to number 7. And this is the last one for the day. So we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of May 1st, 2024. And a date of marriage of 2002. She's not familiar with contact level or energy, and she just had a few basic questions. So let's look at these. And this actually could even be the same one who asked the questions from before, but because there was no email, so I couldn't tell. So she says, just a few questions I will go through them, and then when I answer them, I'll go through them again. How long is escape and avoid? Do they usually stay gone and avoid you till they move on to the next stage? What is deep MLC? Is it common for spouses to act opposite to who they were? My spouse is angry, and half the time I don't even know or understand why, and if you ask why, he shuts down. Okay, so how long is escape and avoid? So instead of how long it is, it can go very long, but it is going to go a minimum, I would say, in general, minimum 18 months, and that does not mean your spouse is going to be coming out at 18 months. Most of them aren't going to, but at the earliest, and it's still an outlier, an early outlier could be coming out at 18 months. On my main homepage, what I have a list of FAQs, and it's just only a couple of them, but the first ones are, where is my spouse? What stage is my spouse in? And then I say, if your bomb drop was, and it's if your bomb drop was a month ago, your spouse is in escape and avoid. If your bomb drop was 3 months ago, escape and avoid. 6 months, escape. 12 months, escape and avoid. I think it's when I get to 18 months, I say probably escape and avoid. At 24, I say probably escape, but it could be liminality. Here's the thing, though. It could be liminality at 5 years, but it could be escape and avoid. They could still be in. There are those who are still in escape and avoid at 5 years. So that's your challenge right there is that's the part that could last. They might not want to leave that one. That's the fun one. Not always, but that is where they are trying to avoid what they have to do. And so they're getting into their addictions. I mean, think about how long somebody who is trying to cover and treat with an addiction will do that, who is truly addicted. How long does an alcoholic do it? Some do it for a lifetime. It sucks. Okay. So do they usually stay gone and avoid? During escape and avoid, do they stay gone and avoid you till they move on to the next stage? There are different types. So clinging boomerangs don't. They have regular contact. The boomerang is about the contact type in that. So boomerangs don't. The clinging reference in a clinging boomerang refers to their need for reassurance, their level of attachment to you. And they need reassurance. They're more needy. They want to know that you're going to be there. Whereas a regular boomerang has regular contact also, but it might be because you have kids and you have to have regular contact. Maybe you work at the same place. Maybe they got an apartment right next to you. You just see each other all the time. And that's still a boomerang because there is a sphere of influence and they can still see how you're doing. Okay. So it doesn't have to mean anything other than that you have contact. You get to see them. Regular contact would count for texting, though. That also counts if they're always texting you, but you haven't seen them in a year. But they text you daily, 5 times a day. Still counts. Then you have an off and on. That would be a distant type of contactor. And a vanisher. A vanisher, you see them once or 0 in 6 months. Off and on, once in 3 or 4 months, once or twice. Okay, so not very often. Or contact, any type of contact. So I said C, but I really mean any kind. Electronic, email, that sort of thing. The only kind that I wouldn't count as if forced, where you are in the process of a divorce where you suddenly had to have regular contact during that time. You could have that with a vanisher. But they'd have been a vanisher before. And suddenly, you had a lot of divorce court stuff for a while, and then you don't. But other than that. And so they're different. A vanisher will stay gone, and a clinging boomerang doesn't. Now, they could switch, but in general, we don't see so much switching. Okay. Is it common for them to act the opposite to who they are? Oh, yeah. Yeah. They just become their complete opposite. I remember one on Divorce Busting. He kept doing crazy things, and I remember her posts going, "You won't believe what it is now. He's become Mormon." She said, "He's become Mormon, long underwear and all." Yeah, they become their opposite. So, and they will date somebody who is completely antithetical to what you're like. And yet they might date somebody who, let's say that you're in your 50s. Let's say you're a couple in your 50s and the alienator is in her late 20s or early 30s. It might be someone who looks like you did then. They might be in a fair down, but in looks, that person could be a lineup with you if you were the same age when you had been. They might have that kind of a similarity. So they're trying to like remake or replace you in that way. That can get creepy. But complete opposite. Yeah. They are trying to live a life. Since this life didn't work for me, I'm going to try it the other way. He's angry half the time, and I don't even understand why. And if you ask why, he shuts down because he doesn't know why either. He's angry at the world. He's angry because he doesn't know why he's angry. He doesn't know why he's doing this. And there is an urge to do it anyway. But he can't explain it. But there's an urge to do it. And if there's an urge to do it, I'm just going to do it. And you stop getting in my way and get out of my way. Because I have to do this. I don't know why. And when you don't know why and you can't explain it, but you still have to do it, it's really frustrating. And yet everyone, especially you, the spouse, keeps asking why. Why are you doing this? I don't understand. Can't you just explain it to me? But I didn't do anything. Why are you so mad at me? He's mad at himself. And maybe he shouldn't be. He's mad at his dad. He's mad at whoever created the trauma. And he might not know that either. Okay? But a lot of it is if you don't know why you're upset, but you are, and you don't have an explanation for it. Okay? Okay, so Detach and Thrive is, Stand Up and Thrive closes tonight at 9 o'clock. So that is my membership. You come in And Detach and Thrive is part of it. And that is an 8-week online course. And to Stand Up and Thrive itself, we meet 4 times a week. You don't have to meet at all. You can choose to just do Stand Up, Detach, and Thrive on your own. You can watch the replays. I don't always put the replays up if there are only a few in meetings, because sometimes we only have one in a meeting, which means you could have 2 hours with me alone, or we have 2 in a meeting. I don't usually put up with if we have 2. Sometimes we get people popping in and out, and I don't always put those up because, oh, there's 2 now, 1 now, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And I know that for periods, if it's just 1, it's very personal, and I don't want to put that up. But when we have a regular good group, that's when the replay goes up, and I really like that. That's the goal, is so you can watch the replays and just join us. We have Mondays. We meet for an hour. It says a 30-minute, and then I always try to stay for an hour. It's always worked out that way. Tuesday is my day off because and then that is a makeup day. If I have emergencies, then I will try to make up and meet on that day. It's like when Jeremiah had his appendix out, or sometimes for holidays, that sort of thing. Wednesdays, we meet in my morning time for 2 hours. Thursdays is the other 2-hour one in the afternoon, my afternoon time. And Fridays is the 1 hour in the morning, and Mondays was an afternoon 1 hour. And if you can't make it, the goal is that you could make one of those, which is why I switch afternoons and mornings. Okay, so make sure to keep submitting your questions so that I can have them streamed for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They are pre-recorded, even though they say live on the little thing, because I stream them out. Okay, and for the Thrivers, Stand Up and Thrive is in just under an hour, so I will see you soon. Okay. Now I have to find out, since this is a new one, where is the little button that I stop it with? I'll figure that out in a second, okay? And bye, everybody. There it's the end stream. New stuff. Bye-bye.